It's great. Thank you, James. Welcome, everyone. We are grateful to have you here today. My name is Brother Grant Lefgren. I'm a service missionary for BYU-Pathway, and we are so grateful for those who are going to be participating today. And we welcome everyone who are watching live on our YouTube channel. We have with us today for our career webinar, James Fletcher. We'll give him an opportunity to introduce himself. He and I met about a year ago. He sits on the President Leadership Council for BYU Pathway. He's been a wonderful contributor in both talent, skill, and opportunity for many of our students with BYU Pathway, Ensign College, and BYU Idaho. We will give him an opportunity to introduce himself, but we also have with me a panel of about 8 students who are calling in from places Nigeria, Peru, Mexico, and Uganda, and we're grateful to have them here with me. So what we will do is we will give James Fletcher, an opportunity to introduce himself. And then after he has introduced himself, we're going to go to some questions, and we will take questions from those that are watching. I will be monitoring the chat section of the YouTube live channel. And so if you have any questions you would like to ask, we won't be able to get to everyone's questions, but it's a great opportunity to be heard, and maybe we'll get to your questions. So with that quick introduction, James, why don't you introduce yourself and we'll go from there.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you to Grant. Thank you to the participants. Just so honored and excited every time I get to rub shoulders with the amazing BYU Pathway students. I'm inspired every time of your grit, your smarts, your courage, and just seeing your faith and seeing your goodness. It's always a privilege. So what I was asked to maybe take 10 minutes at the beginning and go through my career and maybe highlight some lessons that I took from my career path, which was, windy and has had lots of interesting adventures along the way. And again, everyone's career path will be windy and have surprising adventures along the way. And so I'll highlight some of the lessons learned, and then we'll go to questions from there. So briefly, I grew up in Northern Virginia, outside of Washington, D.C. And one of my earliest memories when I was 7 years old is my grandpa, who was a scientist and worked for NASA. But his passion, his hobby on the side was stock market investing. And one of my earliest memories is my grandpa took me on his lap and he would just read the Wall Street Journal with me on a Saturday or Sunday, and he'd show me his portfolio accounts and why he invested in this stock or this stock. And obviously I admired and loved my grandpa, and I've always sort of had that inkling that investing and finance is fun. And then I served a mission in Brazil, a full-time mission for 2 years, and just fell in love with the Brazilian people and the culture and language, and came back, and I was studying at BYU. And basically I said, is there a way that I could marry finance and also my love of international cultures and people? And I was studying finance, and I was lucky enough to get a job at a fund in Boston called Westwood Global Investments that was looking for a Latin American analyst that spoke Portuguese, and they invested in Asia and Latin America. And so I got an internship, and then did a student investment fund at BYU, learned how to create financial models, and then was later hired full time. So we joined that after BYU and started in Boston. So for me, one of the lessons learned there is I knew a couple of my passions And then I tried to find these passions and connect them with a profession that I could earn money from. And when I remember I was at BYU and I had this passion for, you know, finance and numbers and even stocks. And I also had this passion for international business and travel and cultures. And so I did lots of informational interviews at that time. And I was considering going into accounting. I was considering going into management consulting. I was considering going into asset management, or business, corporate finance. And basically, when I looked at who I was and what really excited me, it was those two things: international business and stocks and numbers and finance. And doing that research and finding that combination is what led me to investment management. So I started at, that fund in Boston, was there in Boston for 8 years. I then went to Los Angeles and launched a emerging markets. So emerging markets are basically developing countries, and that is my specialty. That's what I've done this is my 20th year investing in emerging markets. And I launched an emerging market mutual fund at a fund in Los Angeles. We were a Morningstar 5-star rated fund. And then I went and I was approached by Netherlands Sovereign Wealth Fund to manage a $1.5 billion portfolio for them. But this one was interesting. It was based in Hong Kong. So we, prayed about it and felt like this was the right opportunity and the right place for our family. And we felt guided by the Lord that the Lord wanted us in Hong Kong. And so we moved. We had 4 kids at the time. We have 5 kids now. We moved to Hong Kong, and we lived there for 5 years. And it was an adventure, and we learned a lot about the Chinese culture and the Asian culture. And it was just a great transformational time for our family. So, another nugget there career-wise is always be open to opportunities. We were always be open to opportunities that may arise. Oftentimes the Lord, in my opinion, moves us around through jobs. And that's one way that he can take you from here to there so you can have impact in this sphere, is to, get a call for a job opportunity, and you pray about it, and then the answer is yes. And then you move, and that became, transformational for our family to have that time in Hong Kong, to live there, to make lots of friends, and to serve, and to just love the culture there. So we lived there in Hong Kong for 5 years. And then after, successful track record there, I was able to launch my own fund, Ethos Investment Management. So we're based in Utah, based in Orem, Utah. We have 11 employees. We invest all across the world in emerging markets. I travel to 15 countries a year, and we hire actually some BYU-Pathway graduates. We have an internship program where we give interns at BYU Pathways and BYU Hawaii and BYU Provo companies in local markets in Philippines and in South Africa and in Brazil and in Peru and all over the world in the countries where we invest. And what we find is that you on this call are just as talented and just as smart and just as hardworking as any top MBA graduate from University of Chicago or Harvard. And so we believe in you. We've been blown away by the work that you're able to do. And we think it's a incredible opportunity, is that there is equal intellect and hard work all across the world, but there's not equal opportunities. And at Ethos, we're really investing in those opportunities, investing in you, because it makes us stronger as a company. And we see that you can do the financial analysis, and we train and help associates do that work. So anyways, it's been a wonderful career for me. On the side, I started a nonprofit organization called Young Investor Society. And I founded this 10 years ago, actually, today. And basically, I was volunteering at high schools in California, talking about the stock market and talking about getting started, doing, mock portfolios, and I was visiting classes, and I visited a class in inner city Los Angeles, and it was predominantly Hispanic kids from low income backgrounds. And we just had this amazing visit. And I basically said, look, our fund is looking for people that like you, that speak Spanish, that have a different understanding of different cultures. And I got a lot of letters after that visit. And one of the letters was from a young man named Edgar. And he said, Mr. Fletcher, you probably think it's silly, but your 45-minute visit has changed my life. And it has given me a vision of who I can become. And I want to go to college now, and I want to study finance. And he said, no adult has ever shown that they cared before. And that phrase, no adult has shown that they cared before, it just would not leave my head. And I said, there's so many kids just like Edgar that just need a invitation to kind of see what lies ahead and what the future could be. And so, anyways, I had a feeling to start a nonprofit to teach high school kids, especially high school kids from low income backgrounds, about personal finance and budgeting and investing and savings. And 10 years ago, it was a lot of, work at nights, like learning and teaching and starting this program. It's called Young Investors Society, YIS.org. But that has snowballed, and we are this month, Young Investors Society is going to cross 3,000 high schools in 81 countries around the world. And it has become the largest investing program for high school age kids in the world. And so the lesson there is, when you get a call, when you get a niggling in your mind of, this is something meaningful and impactful that you should do, I would encourage you and challenge you to answer the call, to rise to the occasion, to give back, and to find that opportunity. Because when I look back, I could have easily just brushed that aside and said, no, I have a full-time job. Why would I do this on the side? But it's honestly been hugely one of the most fulfilling things in my life. So that is my windy career journey. It's been an adventure every step along the way, and I don't think I could have predicted a lot of it, but it's been wonderful, and I'm grateful for all the lessons I've learned. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
James, that is great introduction. So grateful to have you with us today. For those of you who are watching live, feel free to write some questions in the chat section. I'll be monitoring that. Again, we won't get to everyone's questions, but love to hear from those that are watching live. But for now, we're going to turn to the panel. We're going to go ahead and hear first from Gian, and then after Gian has asked his question, we'll go to you, George.
Okay, thank you, Brother Grant. Good morning, Brother James. It's nice to know you. Nice to see you.
Nice
My
to
name
see
is
you
Gianfranco.
too.
I am from Peru. I have a question for you. What do you consider to be the biggest challenge facing your industry today?
Yeah, good. Great question, Gianfranco, and very nice to meet you. So, in finance, I'd say there's a couple challenges or opportunities. One is, we are we meet 400 management teams a year. We do a lot of due diligence on the companies we invest. But one major trend in the investment industry is called maybe a move to passive, or just people putting money in index funds rather than mutual funds, which is fine. And honestly, for the majority of people, index funds are just a great, safe, consistent way to invest and build wealth. And it's one of the principles that we teach in Young Investor Society is consistency and simplicity is actually one of the keys to building wealth in the investment markets. But if it gets to the point where it's, the majority of investment decisions are just passive and robotic, it could create distortions in the market. And so that is one of the, challenges in the industry is there's a lot of money that just sort of follows indices. And that does increase volatility in the markets because if you have outflows and inflows, it can increase volatility. So that's one of the challenges. But honestly, I'm optimistic about finance overall. Like people say, is AI going to take all the jobs? I think when you take the next layer of finance, it's all about relationships. It's all about trust. It's all about judgment. Yes, AI can help on the surface, but below that, there's still such need for judgment and relationships. And so I actually am optimistic about the future of finance in general.
Great question. Thank you, Gian. We'll hear from George and then Juan.
Okay. Am I loud? Okay, that's fine. Thank you so much, Elder Grant, and our keynote speaker. Yeah, my name is George Williams, source from Uganda, and I'm a current BYU student, majoring in applied business management, and my last year completing my degree. So I'll thank
Wonderful.
you, our keynote
Hi,
speaker.
George.
I'll thank you, our keynote speaker, for the experience that you've shared with us in the field of investment. Okay, you spoke about you hiring BYU-Pathway students to work with you, and I believe we can learn more from you, and we've already begun learning more from you and from your experience of investment in the field. So now you're going to teach. You've taught us how to invest. So my question is, all right, how can we be able to invest in ourselves as BYU students such that we become the best candidates to meet your selection criteria and requirements to be suitable applicants you can trust and recruit in your company and your other employers that you know? Thank you so much.
George, great question, and I'm so impressed, by you. I can just feel the energy, and I love it. I love it. We've hired right now. At Ethos, we've had over 200 interns go through a Mountain River Partners Ethos internship doing asset management, and over half of those students have been from Africa. So you can apply and learn through Mountain River Partners for the internship there. What I would say is the experience that we've seen is the work that the students are able to do and how quickly they're able to learn is extraordinary, and it's very impressive. So we have, as I said, we have 6 associates right now. One is from Nigeria, one is from Uganda, where you're from, George. I was recently in Kenya and just so impressed by the intellect and the opportunities. So, but what I'd say in general is asset management is it's an industry where you need to put yourself out there and kind of apply for remote jobs. You need to go out there and get experience. You can read investment books, like some investment books like Essays of Warren Buffett or One Up on Wall Street by Peter Lynch, or The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. But you can learn about investing on your own through learning from some of the great investors. And then you can also create internships and jobs on your own by reaching out to funds and saying, I have interest, I'm graduating in business management. And there's opportunities, funds like us that will look at you and will take you on, at least as an intern. and then go from there. So and then the other thing I would say is, if you're interested in the stock market and investing, and maybe you've read some books on it, the fun thing is investing, you can basically learn on your own and do it on your own. So you can start buying stocks either in the US, you could buy Apple, or in your local country, you could find businesses that you know and love and are familiar with and think they have great products, and buy their, individual stocks as well. And so, and then you learn principles and you start building wealth. And so investing is kind of a magical industry where it's something you can do on your own. You can read on your own, you can learn on your own, and you can actually start to invest on your own. So that would be the encouragement I would give you. But big picture, don't sell yourself short, because you are just as talented as so many candidates all over the world. So it's just continuing to gain that experience and interviewing and put yourself out there.
That's an excellent question that was asked by George. James, is just a quick follow-up on George's question.
Yeah.
Just so the audience knows a little bit about what you kind of bring to the table. There's a lot of investment companies that are out there. And maybe you could speak a little bit to what kind of sets you apart. And I think we've had conversations, at least I've heard in the past, where BYU Pathway students that are international, largely that are going through either getting a degree in Ensign College or BYU Idaho. The advantage that many of them bring to the table is that they understand the markets, their local markets.
Yeah.
And so as you as a company are investing in not just the local US market, but going international and going into emerging markets and trying to identify gems and opportunities. There's a lot of research that goes into these investment portfolios, diversifying into multiple markets, that you bring students in with the potential advantage that they have of understanding the local market. They can go out there, boots on the ground, basically. They can
Yep.
go out there, they can walk the store, they can walk the retail outlets, they can, be there to understand what's going on in your analysis. Is that accurate?
Yeah, exactly, Grant. Let me just give you two quick examples. We gave a team in the Philippines, a port operator in Manila. It's the second largest port in the Philippines, right outside of Manila. And this company was a small company that had no broker coverage, had no investment reports written about them. This team went and met with their head of communications and their CFO. They learned all about the port. They learned all about cargo coming in and out, capacity expansion plans. And we were able to buy this business at about 1/5 of the valuation multiple that you would pay if it was, well known and compared to their other peer in the Philippines. And so having that team on the ground in the Philippines was so valuable for us. And then similarly, we had an intern that was doing work on an Indonesian company, and he went and he did a survey of all these customers they sell yogurts and they sell dairy products. And he came back with all these survey results from local Indonesians. And one of the insights was this company has an amusement park that's a branded amusement park in northern Indonesia. And because of the strong brand sentimentality that this company had with their amusement park, people were much more willing to buy their new products. So we kind of gain these insights. And why? It's because of people like you. Like, there were people on the ground that were doing valuable research for us. So yeah, exactly, Grant.
That's great. Thank you. We'll go to Juan Carlos and then afterwards, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's glad to have you here, James. Somehow my first question has been answered already. So to not be redundant, let me ask you this. And still, for those of us who didn't have a scientist grandpa at NASA, um, if we're interested in a career in finance or investment management, what specific skills do you believe are most important to develop early on? Can you give us like three main skills?
Yeah, so and you'll see if you're doing applied business management or if you do an internship program, you'll learn some of these skills. But I think one is learning to speak the language of finance. So it's a new language that you have to learn. And the language of finance is accounting. So it is income statement, balance sheet, statement of cash flows. You have to learn that language in order to be able to communicate in the world of finance. So one is to study financial statement analysis. Two, like I said before, the amazing thing about investing is the masters have written down their manual, their textbook. So you can go and you can read from Peter Lynch and Pat Dorsey and Joel Greenblatt and Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, and you can go read exactly how they invested and then apply some of those principles and see if it is interesting either as a career or just to invest personally. And then the third one I would say is, and this is maybe takes an internship, but learning how to create financial models is very valuable. So and if you do an internship program with Ethos, we help you create financial models and create estimates of earnings growth and revenue growth and sort of a basic valuation analysis, because that is another sort of skill of investment management, is learning how to build a financial model and extrapolate the growth into a forecast. So those would be the three skills I would say that will set you apart.
Okay.
Good question, Juan Carlos.
Thank you, James.
Tom, go ahead and share your question. We can't hear you. It looks like your mic is off mute, but it might be.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
All
Yes.
right. All right. Just happy to be here and learning from James. I've seen some highlights from him like through LinkedIn, and it's just pleasure meeting you in this platform. My question is about margin. Like, what do you look at? What do you look for when choosing a good company to invest? Margin market.
So the question was, what do we look for a good company to invest, and the margins of the company?
Yeah, in the margin market, yeah. Like when you're choosing like good companies where like you want to invest in, like in margin market, what do you look at first?
Oh, in like options or okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because like sometimes it's risky, the finance part, investing. But like sometimes like let's say if investing in a big or small companies, sometimes we don't know how to return. Only that like if you understand well the market, but as a new beginner wants to invest within the market of margin.
Yeah. So great question, Atong. Investing with options and margins is more on the complex side of the spectrum of investing. So the great thing about investing is there's lots of different ways to invest. So on the simple side, like we talked about at the beginning, you can invest in just an index fund, and there you own the 100 largest companies in the country. Or if you invest in the S&P 500, it's the 500 largest companies in the US. That S&P 500 has given you about a 10% annualized return, over the past 100 years. And a 10% annualized return may not seem like that much, but that means you're doubling your money in every 7 to 8 years. And so continuing to double your money every 7 to 8 years really can add up over the long run. So, investing simple and earning sort of that index level return is not a bad option, right? And then on the other side of the spectrum is investing with options and margins. What I would say is how we invest, and I'm very much like a disciple of Warren Buffett and sort of how he invests, which is long-term time horizon in good businesses and keep it simple. So one of the stock market adages in general is stocks follow earnings. And so basically, if you have a company like Apple, or if you're in Africa, Safaricom, let's say, and they're going to double their earnings over 5 years, more likely than not, the stock price is going to double over that 5-year period as well. Yeah, there may be some fluctuations based on, valuations, but in general, if a business doubles, the stock price doubles. And so what we do is we find really great businesses that we invest with a 5 to 10 year time horizon that we think is very clear and very high confidence that this will remain a very high quality, good business over 5-10 years. And so, we don't do options because that's more sort of if you're investing for, more shorter period of time. And so, yeah, that's the approach we take is 5 to 10 years, great quality businesses that we think can grow earnings and cash flows, and have good quality business around their business.
Thank you, James. I learned a lot. Okay.
Yeah. Good question, Tom. Great to see you.
Great to
Let's
see
go
you
to thank you. Let's go to Gina, and then we'll go to Wilson. Gina, are you there? Looks like you might be frozen. Let's go to Wilson, and then we might come back to you, Gina. Go ahead, Wilson.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello, team. Thank you for this opportunity. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity to be part of this webinar. Thank you, James, for this opportunity to ask you questions about what you come to say. Your career is inspiring. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Wilson.
I would like to tell you that since 2018, I started studying at BYU-Pathway, BYU Hideout Online. This year, I'm on my last semester in order to graduate with a bachelor degree in business management. I already complete full certifications. Then I already complete advanced finance course, and I live in Mexico. I live in a foreign country. And in 2019, I started working in call center services. And I'm really grateful for this opportunity to work in Mexico call center services, 6 years of experiences. But when it's time for me to move from a career to another, because my goal is to work use my business management skills in a company. I used to work for a global company like Ria Money Transfer, AXA Assistance, their performance. So, but it's a bit challenging to find this opportunity.
Yeah, that's great, Wilson.
Because company most likely to hire local people, no, for those positions. And I know so many
Wilson,
people from
what's your
Mexico.
question?
Sure.
Could you ask a question, Wilson?
Sure. I know so many people from Mexico in the same case with me. They're already national people, citizen. But do you currently have, my question is, do you currently have any internship or mentorship opportunity for those people like me? Thank you.
Yeah, so I'd encourage you to apply to Mountain River Partners Fellowship. So they have a couple different finance tracks that for business management students, either accounting or real estate or finance investment management, and that is one, you know, initial step foot in the door and good internship program. The other, you know, and there's services like Bloom and others which can link you with part-time jobs or full-time jobs. And you know, if you're working in call centers, Wilson, which it sounds like you're awesome at, you know, if you're with sort of some of those groups like Solvo or Bloom, you can start in the call center and then see if you can pivot into another work opportunity under that same, you know, umbrella of an organization. But my overarching advice to you, Wilson, is just don't give up, right? You know, opportunities will come, and some of those you have to make yourself, and, you know, be on calls like this and reach out and continue to do what you're doing, you know, asking good questions. But just don't give up, right? Continue to put yourself out there, interview. And I think there are remote jobs, and I think there are great remote candidates like yourself. And I think businesses over the next, you know, 5 years will really start to recognize that more and more. So that's the advice I'd give.
For those of you who are watching, just to let you know, next week we're going to have Matt Downs doing the same thing here, and he's with Mountain River Partners. So I'm sure that there'll be some connection there. But James, are you familiar? Like, what kind of like, if someone's interested in that, what kind of classes or courses would be kind of foundational to really being considered for that? Like, if you have someone that's just coming in, all they've had is BYU-Pathway 101, PC 101. They're just starting out.
Yeah.
They probably should be applying because they need to have some, you know, some understanding at a scholastic level. What are some courses that might be helpful for them to take?
Yeah. So in general, the path, if you're interested in, you know, what you've heard today of finance and business management, accounting, is to, you know, go and apply to Ensign College or BYU Idaho, be working towards that bachelor degree, and most of the hires are in a business management that run through that program. So if you're starting BYU Pathways, yeah, highly recommend taking it to the next level and earning that bachelor degree, because that's from, you know, an accredited U.S. university like BYU Idaho, and getting a degree in applied business management is really what creates that path for Mountain River Partners, Ethos, and lots of other opportunities like that.
Thank you, James. Let's go to Bobson, and then we'll have James Okora ask his question. So go ahead, Bobson.
Okay, thank you. I'm Bobson from Kenya.
Hi, Bobson. Good to see you again.
Yeah,
we met in person.
Yes, thank you. So I'm doing applied business. So my question is, I've been part of Ethos internship, and especially for the last internship, and especially what I'm doing right now is more based on the skills I gained during the internship. So my question to you, James, is I have 4 questions. One is, what inspired you to pursue a career in investment management, and what were some key turning points? And then another question is, what advice would you give to students from emerging markets who wants to break into global investment role? Then the third question is, how did networking or mentorship play a role in your success, and how can students find mentors in this field? Thank you.
Great. Bobson, why don't I answer the question, and then I'm gonna turn it over to you and ask you a question, which I think will be useful, which is what did you learn through the Ethos internship, and were all the skills like creating financial models, valuation analysis, was it hard, and how were you able to learn it? So I'd love your opinion, because you've gone through, a lot of the steps that we've talked about today. But as you're thinking, I'll answer your great questions. So yeah, I mean, what inspired me was the ability to travel in investment management, the ability, like I said, like my grandpa sort of instilled in me that just love of investing from a young age. And I read Warren Buffett, essays of Warren Buffett, when I was senior in high school. And it just like turned my world upside down, because it just made so much common sense of how he invested, how he viewed companies. And when I read that, I thought that I just want to invest like that. And so that instilled in me a passion for it. And it has been, like I said, a windy road of a career, but it's been an amazing career, and a lot of my dreams and goals of traveling and getting to know different cultures and people, and always being challenged intellectually have certainly been met. Remind me, Bobson, what were the other questions?
What advice would you give to students from emerging markets who wants to break into global investment role?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say find internships and find funds that invest either locally or that invest in like U.S. funds that invest in emerging markets, like Grandeur Peak Advisors, like Fidelity. But what we're seeing from the Ethos side and our associates is, once we train you to do financial models and company analysis, actually there's a lot more jobs open than you would think. So you can go do banking with those skills. You can do entrepreneurship with those skills. But I'd say the biggest job that we're finding interest in is corporate finance, either investor relations or in their finance department. So what we find, Bobson, is like, if you've done work on Safaricom, for example, and you know the company well, you've created a financial model, then go to Safaricom and say, look, I know finance, and I know your accounting statements, and I know your business strategy. And they have an investor relations team and a corporate finance team with hundreds of employees, and you would be a top candidate. So we're finding actually going to companies in local countries is a great way to find jobs in emerging markets, learning these finance skills. Okay, Bobson, I'm going to put you on the spot and let you answer. What have you learned, and what surprised you in the internship program?
Okay, I can say that the Ethos and Mountain River internship was a great internship. I learned a lot from financial modeling, business research, EBITDA calculations, and then also giving reports to investors, whereby we're summarizing the reports whether the company is attainable or unattainable for investment. So it is a huge things, like huge skills. And how the internship was organized was We had mentors that will always guide us every week how to calculate, how to understand whether the company is attainable or not attainable, how to present a report to investors who want to invest in this company, and how to write a recommendation if the company is attainable or unattainable, and if the company might be attainable in future, and what can be done to this how can you advise investors before they invest to this company? So these are the skills we learn. And through these skills, it has helped me because whatever I'm doing right now is related to what I learned in internship, because I'm doing something in financial analyst with a certain company in the United States, just because of the skills that I gained from Mountain River Partners. Thank you.
Great. That's awesome. Thank you, Bobson. You did an amazing job, by the way.
Thank you.
Let's go to Uchina. Go ahead and ask your question, Uchina.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I have some few questions to ask. I listed them down. We'll start with the first one. But before I answer my question, I just want to say thank you, James Fletcher, for sharing your experience with us.
Of course.
The first question I would love to answer is, what was the most difficult challenge you faced along your career path, and how were you able to overcome this challenge? The second question is, how can students gain access to Ethos internships? And the last question is, for students who just started his career path, what would be the best advice you can give to the students?
Okay, great questions, Uchenna. So, difficulties, yeah, a couple come to mind. One is, so the benefit of, the fun thing about investment management is that every day is challenging, and every day you're learning new things. So that is a wonderful thing about the investment management industry. The flip side of that, though, is that every day there's volatility, and every day there's stress from the volatility of the markets. And so, having the right mindset, a long-term mindset, and sort of being able to stay even keeled despite, volatility is, that can be stressful at times, and that can be difficult. And there's years where you generate great investment returns, and there's years that are difficult and they go against you. And you have to follow long-term fundamentals and stay sort of rational and even-minded about it. So it's not for everyone. That's what I tell people going into investment management is, public equities are fun because they're public. You can read the numbers. They're companies but there's also volatility and stress that comes along with it. So it's not for everyone. The other challenge I would say is, as I mentioned before, is, I've had a couple pivots in my career where we were living in Southern California. We lived by the beach. We had a house that we loved. We were living a very comfortable life. And then I got that call, did I want to launch a fund in Hong Kong? And, that was a very difficult move to sort of say, okay, yes, that's the right decision. And then to have the courage and faith to go follow that. Similarly, to launch, my own company is a leap of faith. And so, that was another one where, okay, we're gonna pivot, and we're gonna have the courage and faith to do what we felt was right. So, those are some of the challenging times as well, when things are comfortable and good, but yet you receive an impression to take a risk and to do something else. So that's what I would say on that. And then the next two questions, I think we've covered some of it, but basically I would recommend going through the Pathways program. It's an amazing program, earning the bachelor's degree, finding a major that is, in line with your interests, and, applied business management is a good one. And then, advice is just don't give up and continue to put yourself out there. The world is opening up to remote work more and more. And so, but it will take determination on your part. It will take, continuing to network and continuing to be on calls like this and reach out and build that network. But I believe that you will see a shift over your lifetime where you will become more and more valuable as smart, bright, hardworking remote workers. And so don't give up on that.
Great advice. We're going to be finishing up here soon. We'll take one question from those that are watching, and then we'll go to James, and then we'll have you kind of close with maybe some closing comments and your testimony. The question that I think is a really good one here that was shared by Ashley. She's watching this online. She said, I majored in applied business also, and as someone who comes from a poor family, how would you advise me to share what I'm learning with my family in simple ways to help them break through? I know that, many of us come from a diverse background of experiences in our families. And when it comes to finances, investments, savings, it can be a shift from what you were grown up being taught as a child, and you're trying to be a good steward for what the Lord has blessed you with. And even for those who are starting out, saving may be difficult in some countries that really kind of have a lockdown in their economy, to where going out there and investing internationally is not much of an option. But lots of different backgrounds, lots of different experiences. But generally speaking, what advice would you give to someone that wants to save? And then answering Ashley's question, how does someone kind of share what they're doing with their family? Maybe they're starting a family, maybe they want to share it with their extended family.
Yeah, I love that question. What a great question. So the skills and the principles that you're learning in BYU Pathways and in your degree are so valuable to share. I would just say, on the finance and investing side, one is the actual finance principles. Save part of your income, put it in either a high yielding account or a steady stock market growing account. Invest in yourself, invest in your career, invest in your personal skills. Make that investment that will pay off in 5 and 10 years. And then, so those are the, finance skills that, honestly, it's not rocket science to save 10% of your salary and to grow that wealth over time, but it can compound just like compound interest works and create exponential wealth 30, 40 years from now. And so the more important thing is just exactly what the question was: sharing the wisdom, helping create good habits, and then motivating and encouraging each other along as we create these good habits together. And then the other thing I would say is, what I love about finance and investing is you learn some principles which are eternal principles, and I believe correlate very well with the gospel of Jesus Christ, which is, think long term, invest in good things, learning how to balance your time and seek first the kingdom of God, is taught through these principles of portfolio management and capital allocation, invest in good people, trusted advisors. The principle of, better knowledge leads to better decisions is a gospel principle, as well as a finance principle. All of these principles that you're learning in your degrees, think about how they apply actually to the gospel and how they apply to your life, because I think there's amazing parallels both in finance but also across all majors. So anyways, I love the question. Continue to teach family about what you're learning, both the finance principles, but also the life principles, which I think are very applicable.
We'll make time for one more question. James, if you could make that question brief. And then, I'm sorry, James Okora, sorry. If you could make that question brief. And then James, if after answering that question, if you'll just give closing remarks and finish with your testimony and with that. So James Okora, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the opportunity. And it's good to hear your experience, James, and kind of sounds like me. I've always been interested in stock market, a lot, investment in a lot of things. And at some point, I was able to invest in some bank. But then what I realized, the rate of return was really, really small, like 10%. And some other times it goes down. So how do you get, because I got discouraged, how do you get the confidence to move forward in such scenarios? Because investment, most of the time when we think of you get a big money quickly.
Yeah, so if you're starting out investing, you want to learn the principles of company analysis. So you understand what you're buying. So you want to understand how the company makes revenues, how they grow profits. A lot of mistakes investors make initially is, okay, this stock has gone up 30% in the past year, so I think it's going to go up another 30%. But they don't understand the business and financials, and they don't really understand what they're buying. So when you're buying a stock, you're buying a piece of a business. And like I said, stocks follow earnings and cash flows over the long run. So you want to have a high conviction, for example, James, in that bank, that the bank's earnings and their dividends are going to grow 5, 10, 15 years in the future. And you really like the product, you like the management team. If you don't have a solid conviction or knowledge about the business that you're buying, then you're just speculating and trading on a stock price, and that's where people get in trouble investing in the stock market. So what I would say is, start small and start conservative, and maybe you want to have the majority of your investing money in either a bank, fixed income account, or in an index fund in your local country, and then gradually invest in companies when you really have a strong knowledge in them. So, and then also learn. Like there's lots of books on investing out there to learn on your own. So that's the advice I'd give you. And James, I'm glad our stories resonate because we're twins on our first name. So I'm glad it resonates.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll close with my overall thoughts and testimony. I have a testimony of Jesus Christ and God our Father. I know that they love us. I know that they put us on earth with a work to do. And we each have individual works to do in our short time on earth. Just a quick story. I was in South Africa about, 15 years ago. And I had just read the book, How Will You Measure Your Life by Clayton Christensen. And if you haven't read that book, I highly recommend it. It's just a great book to think about, who you are and what your goals are. And I had just read that book, and I was in South Africa for a conference and had a really busy schedule, but I had the feeling that I should go to church. And when I went to church, I had a meeting that night, but I felt like I should stay at church. And they had an activity afterwards, and I was at the activity, and I met a young man named Zwandile, and we just hit it off and like instantly connected, and was able to just sit down with him and just talk about our future and talk about his plans. He was thinking of dropping out of college, and it kind of gave him a boost in confidence. And anyways, it was a very small moment, but I walked away from that, and the impression I had was I was not here in South Africa for the investment meetings. It was so I could connect with Zwandile, my brother. And I have had that impression many, many times over my career, is that we are put in places to talk to people, to have conversations, to have impact. And what you'll see is the Lord will move you around career-wise, and he'll give you opportunities to connect with people. And the work that we're doing is, yes, it's to earn money and it's to earn a great career, but it's also to help build our brothers and sisters and to learn from each other. And I have learned over my career, if I see my work as bigger picture, the chance to connect with people like Zwandile or like Edgar from Young Investor Society, that oftentimes is the most important thing, and that the work is just the byproduct of getting you to those conversations. And so seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and everything will be added unto you. And I know that's true. And I know that Heavenly Father has a work for each of you. And that's why he put you in unique situations and gave you unique skills and unique gifts. And I say that in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, James, for joining us.
Amen.
God bless everyone. We'll see you again next week.
Thanks, everyone.